welcome to Monday's Not Just Crew. Well, today we've got the interview Simon always wanted, the one with his dad.
Well, a very good afternoon, everybody, and Not Just Crew. You have tuned in to Simon Costello, and today we have a very special edition. Today, I am going to be interviewing, yes, nobody from the aviation world, not that I know of anyway, but I'll be interviewing my dad, who goes by the name of Joe. I'll give you his full name. It's Joseph William Costello, and he's my dad. Has been all my life, believe it or not. And I'm gonna introduce him very soon. But it's an honour and a privilege to be sat here, and we're eventually getting to where we need to be with all the technology. I think my dad's on the right track. He's just sitting back in the green room. But let's just roll the titles and let the interview begin. So yes, today I'll be asking my dad quite a few. It's a good series of questions. I'm expecting the interview to last approximately about 45 minutes, and I'll just basically ask him whatever comes into my head, and I just hope he's got the answers. So without any further ado, let's bring the man, the legend, my dad, into the room now. Oh. There he is. Hello, Dad. How are you doing?
Hello there.
Right. Welcome to Not Just Crew. Like as I said before, it's an honour and a privilege to have you as my guest in our show today. So what I'm going to basically do is, as we talked about a little bit earlier, I'm just going to ask you a few questions regarding what you used to get up to, and we'll just go through until present day. So anyway, let's just ask you, how are you doing today?
Couldn't be better.
Excellent.
Fitting well.
You got your technology all sorted out. I'm pleased.
Hey, I think so.
You're sitting comfortably, right? So, basically, you were born on the 28th of October, 1940, right?
Correct.
Brilliant. And could you tell our members whereabouts you were born?
Right. I was born in Sunderland, in Borough Road, and that's town centre way in Sunderland.
In Sunderland. That is the northeast of England in Tyne and Wear. And when you were born into this world, can you remember what hospital you were born into, or were you born in a house?
I was born at home.
Wow. And who brought you into this world?
I've no idea.
Oh, so you don't have that information.
No.
Do you know who was in the house, obviously, other than
Yes, I know everybody that was in that house.
Right. Explain who was in that house when you were born into this world.
Well, obviously, I'm not sure whether my dad was there, because he was a seaman and he could have been away, but my mum was there, obviously, my grandmum and my grandfather, and I had an older sister called Sheila, and she was born in 1934, right?
Yep.
And also had a brother there. He was born in 1937.
And what was your brother's name?
Peter Costello, and he also went to sea, but not at that particular time because he was too young.
Well, let's not jump the gun here with your brother going to sea. You've just been born.
Right,
Hang on.
Right, yes.
We're just in the house and we're all cozy.
Right, I had two sisters. One was called Sheila, who was born in 1934, and the other sister was born in, let's see, 1936.
Yep.
And she died in 1938. She was only 2 years old,
Wow.
and she died of diphtheria.
And what was the name again?
Margaret
Margaret.
Margaret Costello.
Costello.
Right.
So we're on to the Costellos here.
Yes.
Well, that's quite sad. Obviously, passing away, 2-year-old. That's very young. Was there a lot of like illness in and around, like,
Well, there was
particularly
also,
the Sunderland area?
yeah, there was measles, diphtheria, flu, influenza. There was lots of diseases around in those days.
So basically, I mean, you were born at home, and obviously, as we know, births normally take place in hospitals where they're clean, they're hygienic, and you've got the medical professionals there. So I wonder who it was who actually delivered you, or was it just like basically?
Well, it could have been the local doctor. The local doctor delivered my sister, and she was called Sheila, and in none days they usually called them after the doctors. So she was Sheila McIntosh, Dr. McIntosh Costello.
Wow. Do you know if that property still exists where
Yes, I do.
you were born?
Yes, it's still there today.
And do you pass it from time to time?
Quite often pass it on the way down to Hendon.
And is there a blue plaque outside the door saying that Joseph William Costello was born here?
Unfortunately not. Now,
No.
when I was born, you must remember, 1940, there was bombing raids all over that area because I lived near the dock area. And there was bombs dropping all over the place. And I can always remember, for all I was little, we used to hide under the stairs when the air raid was on. Because my mum didn't like to go to the air raid shelter. And as I say, there was a big bin shop just up the road from us, and a bomb dropped there in 1941 and blew the whole building up. There was nothing left of it. And that was just about 300 or 400 yards up the road.
Wow. Lucky.
And there was also a disaster. It was called the Victoria Hall disaster. And a parachute mine dropped on that, and it blew that building up, which was just round the corner also. So basically, I was in the thick of it.
Yeah. And I know you've told me the story before, but what was your sleeping schedule like? What was your bed?
Well, I was put in the bottom drawer of the sideboard. That was my bed.
Wow.
Because we were very poor, and we only had 3 rooms throughout the place. And our kitchen was on the landing, the top of the stairs. In these Victorian houses, you had a landing, a gas cooker was on there, and my mum had to go down 3 flights of stairs into the yard in all weathers and bring an enamel pail up full of water for washing and drinking and so forth.
And we've discussed about my nana and obviously your mum. What about your father at the time?
I've no idea, because as I say, I was too young, and when I was old enough to ask questions, most of the family had gone anyway.
How old would your father have been at that time, and what was his name?
He was Peter Costello. My brother was named after him, Peter Costello. And he was drowned in the River Weir in 1941. And I was only 11 weeks old when he was drowned. And what he was on what they called a blockade. There was 2 blockade ships, and they were all ready to be sailed down to the mouth of the Weir and sank if there was an invasion coming, so nobody could get in the harbour. But one night, he was climbing the rope ladder, which is called Jacob's ladder, and he slipped and fell, and he hit his head on the little boat, the jolly boat they called it, that they sculled across for the sailors to get onto the ladder. And he hit his head on that, and he went in the water, and he wasn't found for 6 months. And it was a dredger at that time brought him up, and it was called a bucket dredger, and they saw remains of bones and so forth in the tub. And my dad, as all sailors did, they used to put the names on the belts, Peter Costello or whatever, and that's how they knew whose skeleton it was.
Wow. I know you've obviously told me these stories, this past and your memories. It's still like quite emotional and hard hitting when you hear it, because it's like, I mean, I can't imagine what that must have been to like hear that news for the first time. Sad really. But anyway, little Joe's life goes on. He's got his mum, you've got your brother, you've got your sister with you, you've got Peter, Sheila, and your mum,
my grandma, my grandma and my granddad.
Yeah, so you've still got a lot of family around you. So can you remember what it was like actually growing up in that household? How it felt like? Was it a warm, loving household? Can you remember it being like nice and warm in the house? What kind of feelings, smells, emotions you used to feel like when you were young?
Yeah, well, we're always happy, although we didn't have much. And at Christmas time, the Seamen's Union, because we couldn't afford, my mum couldn't afford any presents, and my nana, and they used to come around with little gifts on Christmas Day, apple and an orange and some nuts and a straw donkey, or a little tin sword or something like that, whatever they could afford to bring round. But we all were happy, we were well dressed, well clothed and well taken care of, because my nana lived downstairs in the lower apartments, and they only had 2 rooms, and upstairs where we lived, we only had 3 rooms. So there was 2 small bedrooms and a front room, which was the dining area and everything like that. That's all we had.
And what food can you remember like that you used to eat, like back then? Because you do like your food, don't you?
Oh, I love my food. No, I honestly can't. Whatever I could get, at the time, because everything was on ration.
Yeah.
And there was no eggs as such. You could get powdered egg and put milk in and whisk it up and stuff like that. And spam, which is horrible.
No,
you could get spam,
and
you could get powdered potato. No, it was awful. You mixed that again with water or milk, but everything was scarce. You had to wait in queues, and we had ration books, obviously, and you could only get so much, like a couple of chops or a couple of sausages at the butcher's. If you went to the general stores, you could only get, like a small loaf or something and a bottle of milk and different things like that. And sweeties, we had coupons for those, but there was a rush on, and they used to run around the streets and say, the sweet shop up the top of the street was called Marley's Sweet Shop. And they used to say, oh, Marley's has got sweets in. Marley's got ice cream in. And all the little kids used to run up with a coupon and try and get some, if they were lucky.
Right. So I'm just trying to like imagine like setting foot outside of your house, and like, because obviously the war, it had finished by then, like 1945.
45. 1940, 38 to 45.
But obviously you've got the buildings all around you, like the ones that have been like bombed and stuff like that. So basically you're running around like rubble, and that's your playground, I'm imagining.
That was my playground.
Mm-hmm.
In bombed houses, coming through the ceiling in some of them, because, my brother came through the ceiling on one instance,
I remember that.
of an old house.
I remember somebody else doing that once in a house.
Oh, yes, he did, didn't
But,
he?
right, okay, yeah, right, yeah. But anyway, so that was kind of like your playground.
Yes, it was.
Was it all, like the roads were were they all cobbles?
Everything, everywhere was cobbles, and the tram lines were there as well.
Mhm.
And even today, because the roads are in bad repair, side streets and main roads, they're just tarmacked over. And everywhere you can see where the cobbles have been,
Yeah.
even today.
They kind of come through, don't they? Like from where the tarmac's gone, you can see them
just the
underneath.
weather washes it away, and potholes. That's what's happening today. Potholes everywhere.
Right. So we're moving on a little bit now. You're starting to go to school. So tell our audience, like, what school you went to, how old you are when you went to school, and what it was like actually growing up and learning what the teaching was like at school and what you used to get up to and your friends such like.
Right. I went to Hudson Road School, and that was just down the road, and I didn't like it at all. I remember the first day I went, I had a little sailor's uniform on, and it was winter, and I was freezing cold, sitting shivering, and I had a badge of my name pinned on with a big pin on my shirt. And I kept running away from school quite often because I missed my mum and I wanted to be at home. And I was always getting wrong, and she would take us back to school. But my granddad, he used to he didn't work, and he used to come down to the school at playtime, which you can't do today, obviously, for obvious reasons. And he used to pass us sweets through the railings in the schoolyard.
Ah.
So that was Hudson Road School.
And what was the teaching like at school there? Can you remember like what subjects you used to learn? I'm guessing physics wasn't one of them.
Well, as you know, I'm totally thick, and I'm proud of it because I've got through. I was no good at most things. I'm no good at spelling. I'm no good at maths. Still today, I just didn't want to take it in. I couldn't take it in.
So, did you do O levels and all that though back then?
11 plus.
Right.
And I failed straight away because I couldn't spell my name.
Wow.
I was only joking there.
Oh,
but I still failed.
I
still failed. But I always say I didn't spell my name right.
Did you used to get into trouble with the teachers at school for like not keeping up with like maybe say
I
the
did.
brighter pupils?
I was always getting the cane, the big stick, bamboo stick, and I was always getting sent up to the headmaster because one day we had little desks and inkwells, right? And I had a toy, and I was playing with it, like across the desk, and it went in the inkwell, and I pulled it out, and all the ink went all over my paperwork, and all over the table, and I got wrong.
And you got the cane for that?
I got the cane, and I got sent up to the headmaster, but I didn't realise it was a Friday, and he said, "I'm very busy today, but I'll see you tomorrow." Well, that was Saturday, and I wasn't there.
Oh, brilliant!
So I'm very lucky.
Can you remember what the name of the headmaster was?
No.
When you were in the orphanage, never mentioned.
I'm just getting a
Oh, right.
A thingy card.
Mention
off the producer.
Mention the research manager in the background. So what's that about the orphanage?
Right. Well, as you know, we had a house full, right? And with my brother being 3 years older than me, he had to go. And my mum, we had 3 jobs going at one time, 3 different jobs: cleaning, skivvying, cleaning people's houses and that, and in shops, cleaning and stuff like that. And she was trying to keep 3 jobs going at once. And she, let me see, what was I going to say? So she couldn't be at the house to look after us all the time. So my older brother, Peter, he went to an orphanage for sailors, you know, that's been killed at sea and so forth and that. And that was in Sunderland as well. And it started off a very famous orphanage. It was near where Jack Crawford was born. He was the one that nailed the flag to the mast in the Battle of Trafalgar with Nelson. And he was not far away where the orphanage was. But then again, it was moved into a better building further sort of outside the town, and it was nicer place altogether.
Can you remember much about the orphanage then, your time there?
Well, I went in, Peter was in there for about 2 years then, because my mum worked there as well, cleaning. She worked all over the town. And anyway, she says, would you like to go? And I says, yeah, I'll go. But I had a problem because I missed my mum. And I used to wet the bed in the orphanage. And the maid, you pick your mattress up. They used to wake you up, first of all. When you went to bed about 6 o'clock, there's a chap used to come round and wake you up. The ones that wet the bed, it was not just me. And he would wake you up about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock and make you go to the toilet, which we did. But that didn't work either. And I had to pick the mattress up, take it downstairs, and take it to the laundry to be dried out. And shame, shame, shame. You know, you had to pass all the boys in the orphanage.
Well, I'm sure you weren't the only one to like.
No, I wasn't. It was 2 or 3.
It's like, but like, you know, like, you know. But oh wow. Right. Okay. So we've covered school. It's clear that you didn't get like any qualifications.
No, none at all.
So you're basically focusing your mind on work to get some money, to kind of like to do what you want to do, to give you that freedom and that independence to kind of to go out.
I had to go to work like we all did to give me mum some board money as well. You see, couldn't live there for nothing.
So, what was your first line of work? Like, did you get a job while you were at school, or did you wait till you'd finished school and then you started working?
Yeah. Well, I finished school in October 1955. So I was 15 years old. And my brother, he was a fitter because he wanted to go to sea as an engineer, which he did do eventually. But he had to serve his time till he was 21 before he could leave and then go to sea, which he did. But I applied at Austin's shipyard, and that's where my dad was drowned, just off there. And there was no vacancy, so there was lots of shipyards on the weir at that time. So I went to a one, and it was called Pickers Guilds, and I wanted to be a joiner because I like working with my hands and that. And they said, "Oh, sorry, we haven't got any positions there." And I said, "Well, what about a plumber?" "No, nothing." Says, "We have a job in the mould loft." Well, at the time, I didn't know what a mould loft was, but it was a very prestigious job, and I was very lucky to get it because it made all the patterns, the frames for the frames of the ship and the shell of the ship, you know, the shape of the ship and everything. They made all the patterns in that loft, and then it was sent out in the yard, and the platers used to bend the frames to the shapes we made, and you know, it was all riveted in them days as well. It was all riveted ships, and marking where the rivet holes goes and things like that, and the size of the plates. And
I'll tell you what, just hold that thought, obviously, because we're going to just break for a moment. We'll put a few short little adverts in, and then we'll get back to your working down the shipyards. So just stay with us, have a little breather. have a little drink of whatever it is you like to have a drink of, Dad.
So I'm
But,
blown out.
No, you stay where you are. We just need to have a few
I
little
know,
short
I'm only
adverts.
joking.
All right, man, watch what you're saying. God, people are watching this, you know.
Stop swearing.
Right, so guys, stay with us. We're going to go to a few short little adverts, and then we'll come back to part 2, where we'll pick up the interview with my dad, and we'll start talking about relationships with whoever he met with, the ladies, and obviously his career as a shipbuilder, leading on to other things. And we'll also talk about like places that he's lived throughout his life in Sunderland. So stay with us.
Imagine a community for travelers worldwide. A platform which brings people from all walks of life together. We are Travel.radio. Whether you work in the sky, on the ground, or sailing across the globe, take us with you wherever you go. A radio station and media platform to fuel your day. Visit Travel.radio now.
Well, welcome back to part 2 of my interview with my dad, Joe Costello. And we're going to pick it up from basically when he was employed for Austin and Pickersgills, which is the shipyards that was very, very famous throughout the world in Sunderland, Tyne and Weir. And yeah, let's bring him back in. Hello again, Dad. Hang on. Just have a little breather. Right, so we're picking up. Basically, I know you started work at Austin and Pickersgills, but I wanted, before we got into that subject, I wanted to know, obviously you left school, you started applying for the jobs. Did you have a bit of an eye for the ladies at that point when you were 15 and 16? Had your attention to females?
Not at all.
None at all?
No.
Not once?
No.
Did you not have any crushes at school?
No. I was a loner.
Oh.
I always did things on my own. No jokes there, please.
Yeah, I know. We're not going into too much detail.
No.
Sometimes your own company's the best company.
I was very quiet. And in fact, they used to call me, like a nickname, the quiet man. Because I never interrupted anybody while they talked, as the other apprentices did. You know, they used to butt in and put the 2-penny in. I just stood there and listened. And that was what they called me.
So your first job, that's your private life done and dusted. That was short and sweet. So your first job's down Austin and Pickersgills. What year roughly was that?
I went to Austin and Pickersgills.
Yeah, when you started.
1955.
1955.
The winter of 1955, and believe me, it was cold.
What did you have a uniform when you worked on the shipyards when you first started?
In those days, there was no safety regulations whatsoever. There was no earmuffs. There was no helmets. There was no gloves. There was no safety shoes. There was no safety glasses. You just went in your old clothes to work.
Well, you could
whatever you weren't using at the time or getting shoddy, like shoes and coats and trousers, and that you went with your clothes.
Did you not fancy putting that little sailor suit outfit on that you went to school in?
I don't think I'd have been able to fit into that anymore.
You could have got me nana to knock you a new one up. Yeah. Anyway, right. So you obviously worked in all kinds of like weathers and conditions, you know, like back in those days. I mean, did you do yourself any injuries when you were there?
Quite a few. Jamming fingers, splitting fingers, knocking your knees and stuff like that, you know.
And what other jobs, because you had a varied amount of kind of like job roles when you worked on the shipyards. What kind of jobs, tell our viewers what you kind of experienced?
Well, from the mole loft, there was a strike, a general strike, and all the workmen went out of work, you know. They couldn't left the shipyard, and there was only us apprentices left. Well, I couldn't work. Was two of us in the mole loft. We couldn't work there on our own. Obviously, we're only apprentices still. And we went out into the yard, and I became a shipwright, not a loftsman anymore. I was a shipwright, and they actually build the ship from scratch, from the keel, you know, upwards, right throughout, and the various jobs, laying the keel, double bottoms of the ship, the shell of the ship, the deck of the ship, and all over, put together. And then you would have riveters and welders at the time to, if you like, in a way, layman's terms, glue it all together, stick it all together, you know, riveters and welders. But we put them in the right positions so there could be rivets fitted properly and welding done properly. And then later, I went into quality control.
That sounds
and then
boring.
after, well, it was inside. And then later, I was what's called a liner off, and I had a ball of string and a big piece of chalk, and I used to mark things off on the deck where they had to go, you know, like masts, deck houses, different things, and also put the I worked with Lloyd's Register, which was again prestigious. Their standards were high, and I put the draft marks on the front. That's 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot at the front of the ship, so it's everybody would know what is, and the back of the ship. And I used to put the crest on the front, the name on the front, and as I say, work with Lloyd's, and that was it. So I wasn't as thick as I said. I was good with my hands, but not my brain.
Yeah, so you're more of a practical kind of guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So obviously you're working, you're getting on with your graft, you're working in all kinds of like conditions. What was it like working alongside? Because obviously I'm guessing it was just all male environment you worked in. Yeah. No women whatsoever.
Well, just after the war, and because that was like 45, and when I went in 55, there were still ladies worked in the yard, like labourers and things like that. They were still there in those days, but soon after, you know, they all went, and it was all male, totally male.
So, with that said, what was the banter like working down the shipyards? Was it good banter? Was there a good camaraderie there? Was there any rivalry? Was there any like bullying kind of things going on?
There was lots of bullying.
Wow. And
even today, I know the shipwrights, the younger ones, that's 20 years younger than I am, they were bullied. Something awful by the other shipwrights, the men, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely disgusting.
And physical abuse, would you
say?
Yeah,
they would tie them up. You know, there was one daft thing they used to do, because we all wore cloth caps in those days, because as I said, there's no safety. And they used to, because underneath the ship, it was all dust. You know, the floor wasn't concrete, it was dust. And they used to put a ring on the ground, and we had what they called a big spike. And they would say, see if you can hit the center of the hole with these spikes, right? And they used to go, yeah, that's good. And they used to say, well, take your hat off and we'll blindfold you and see if you can do it then. Well, they used to put the hat on the circle, so you would be bashing your own hat with a big spike. And apart from tying people up with ropes and things, they used to do horrible things.
Right, so that's the bad side of it. What was the good side of it then, working with all of these lads?
Well, there was some good times, you know. The people that's your same age and all that, you know. But I never went out at night with them. I didn't drink. I just went home. My mum, because we'd moved from the town centre to a new housing estate because my mum had TB and she wasn't well. So we moved to a better accommodation from where we lived in Borough Road. And I just used to go home. And my first passion, if you like, was motorcycles. And that's what I used to go down. I used to meet other motorcyclists down the Seaburn front. We were like the rockers, if you like. But we didn't act like them. We weren't like bullies or, wielding bicycle chains about or anything.
How did you get to know them then?
Well, I don't know. Just going out for a
around
ride.
on your bike.
Going for a ride one day, and I used to like to go down Seaburn, the seafront, and there was lots of the boys there,
Mm-hmm.
And they none of them worked in the shipyard. Their fathers sort of had shops, like baker shops, butcher shops, and things like that. But they were still, they weren't rough, if you like. They weren't rough lads. They were polite, and some of them have even gone to the grammar schools. There's a big one in Sunderland, which is when you pass your 11 plus, you could go there, and they all spoke nicely.
What was that school called?
Not like the shipyard boys, spoke nicely. And
what school was that, Dad?
Eh?
That they used to go to? What school was that they'd go to?
Oh, the Bede.
Bede.
The Bede College on Durham Road.
Uh-huh.
And as I say, I learned a lot from them,
Mm-hmm. So you're going out on your bike, you're enjoying yourself, you've got the open road ahead of you, kind of thing. What about the nightlife? When did the nightlife sort of like hit you, and the wonders of Sunderland?
Yeah, well, that was it. There was lots of nightlife in Sunderland, lots of casinos and discos, music halls. There was lots to do in Sunderland.
Name a few of them.
Well, there was a club called Wetherells, and that was just literally 5 minutes walk from where I'm sitting now. And I was fortunate to meet some stars, as the younger people still know. Tom Jones.
Oh, Tom Jones.
Oh,
lovely boy
from Wales,
Yes.
And his real name is Woodward, Thomas Woodward, not Tom Jones. And I had an occasion in a workman's club to meet Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yeah, and where was this occasion?
I can't remember when it was. It was just
the toilet, wasn't it?
I see what you mean. Yeah, we went to the toilet together, and there were no jokes about that, man. And his name is Arthur. Wait a minute. I forget now. Anyway, that's not his real name, Engelbert Humperdinck.
It's
Dorsey.
Yeah.
It's Arthur George Dorsey.
And this is how weird this is, because like many years ago, when I was on a flight, I had Engelbert Humperdinck on a flight. He was setting up a class, and he was one of the passengers there, and I saw his boarding card, and I saw that his name wasn't Engelbert Humperdinck, and it was Jerry Dorsey. And then I spoke to you, didn't I? And it was like, you told us the story that you'd met him as well. So how strange, like it's one celebrity that we've both met. It's weird, isn't it? That
and not different times,
like different generation. Yeah, I mean, he got on board the aircraft. He had his sunglasses on, big leather jacket, big sideburns on. Looking the part. But to be fair, he was a lovely passenger. Like, he was no bother. So yeah, I mean, you've met quite a few like celebrities in and around the Sunderland area when they were working the circuit and all that. So give us a few.
There was what do they call her? Sandy Shaw. If anybody out there knows Sandy Shaw, I met her.
As a tenor.
And she sang "Puppet on a String."
Yeah.
In the Eurovision Song Contest. And her gimmick was she didn't wear any shoes or socks when she sang.
Uh-huh.
And there was one night, because you get the hecklers in, you know, in Wetherells. She says, "You'll have to excuse me. I've got a sore throat, you know." And somebody shouted, "Well, you should be wearing shoes and then you wouldn't get a cold." Oh, it was hilarious.
Oh, cutthroat back then, wasn't it? Tell you, they didn't hold back. How rude. I hope they got kicked straight out, because that's unacceptable behaviour.
And there was also La Strada. That was a lovely nightclub in Forson Street and Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
And you went, the man that owned it, his wife ran the private school that you went to.
But don't tell them that I went to private school. They'll be thinking, what the hell went wrong? Anybody watching this? God, but like, I clearly took after you when I came to the going school experience. I totally agree with you. And that's one thing that rings true. I never really saw any true value in going to school in my experience. I know it's different for everybody. I couldn't get out of there quick enough. I just wanted to get out there, started work, get some money in my pocket and start experiencing life. And it's not done me any harm. It certainly hasn't done you any harm. That's for sure.
No.
And it just goes to show, like, loads of people out there, if they think that the be all and end all is education and school, then just hold that thought, because there's plenty of people go out there. I mean, Richard Branson, for one, didn't do very well at school, and then they go on to become these creative entrepreneurs and make an amazing career and a life for themselves, doing anything else other than what they did at school. So yeah, and I've got to say, I've enjoyed every second of, like, good and bad, because it makes you the person that you are. Like when you experience these things, and we'll touch on that a little bit later on, Dad, when we talk about like things regarding different times.
And it's also being in the right place at the right time. That
Correct.
has a lot to do with it.
That helps as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. So, drinking wise, if you're out and about in Sunderland, what was your drink of choice? What would be your tipple for the night?
If you just hang on a minute, I said I didn't drink till I was about 25 or something like that.
So what was your tipple when you got to 25 then?
Oh, just beer.
That's all right. What kind of beer was it? Bitter? Lager?
Lager. No, first of all, I used to like Newcastle Exhibition. It was absolutely lovely in those days, because it was out the barrel, straight out the barrel. And also Stones, Stones drink. Yeah, that was out of a barrel as well, cask ale.
So before the alcohol, before you got to 25, what were you drinking when you were going out and about then?
Coffee bars.
Ah,
I used to frequent on the motorbike. There's a coffee bar still there today on the seafront, just near Whitburn, and it was called the Haven. And we used to drink coffee in there. And there was another coffee bar in the middle of Sunderland, and it was called the Biz Bar. And it sold frothy coffee, man.
Yeah.
So
that'd have been quite rare back then, was it? Frothy
coffee and that. And then it was not so much a lot to drink, because I drove, you couldn't drink too much till I think they brought the drink driving laws in about 1969. 69, something like that, 67, 68, 69.
Did you have a car at that point? Did you progress from the motorbike to a car?
Oh, yeah, from the motorbikes, yeah. I went up to the cars, and the first car I got, my brother bought it, actually, because, as I said, he was at sea, and it was a Ford Anglia. Well, he was always going back to sea, and it wasn't my car, it was his, but I was allowed to drive it, insured and everything. And I used to drive this little Ford Anglia around.
What
the
colour?
Ones that you would see on Heartbeat. They drive the same kind of car. And then I progressed to different cars.
What colour
bigger
was your Ford?
cars.
What colour was your Ford Anglia?
Hey?
What colour was your Ford Anglia?
Oh, it was maroon with a grey top.
Nice.
No. And then I got a Consul. That was nice, a blue one. The Mini Cooper S.
Oh, but,
That was flash. Oh, yeah, I was a man.
yeah.
I was a man.
Uh-huh.
And I bought a Sunbeam Alpine.
Mm-hmm.
As Sean Connery drove in Dr. No.
And did you use like these cars? Did you used to tinker with them? Like if anything went wrong with them, were you quite like good when it came to like getting them fixed and stuff?
No, didn't have a clue. I just had friends. I just had good friends,
Aye.
and they knew little bits and pieces, and you know.
Yeah, well, you've passed on that skill to me without a doubt, because I haven't got a clue when it comes to cars. I get people to do these things for us who know what they're doing. Because one thing's for sure, if I start getting in the nitty gritty of stuff like that, I'm only going to make it worse. It's going to cost more money at the end of the day. So I've kind of learned my lesson there. Just leave it to people who know what they're doing. Right. So we've discussed your cars, your passions, and all that. Did you ever have any any enjoyment in any sports?
No. I don't like football. I don't like cricket. I don't like rugby. No contact sports at all. I was a mummy's boy. I didn't like getting hurt.
So what age was it that you actually stayed at your mum's? How old were you when you left home?
28.
That's not too bad, really. I mean, there's a lot of people nowadays still live with their parents, like up until their 20s, late 20s. I know that's because they can't afford to get on the old property ladder themselves. But 28, that's was that an age where a lot of people like stayed living with their parents, or did a lot of people leave a lot earlier in their life back then?
I'm not sure about other people, but I know my brother and my sister, they both left home early. My sister became, she worked at the Royal Infirmary. She worked at the General Hospital, which is still there today. She went down to Newcastle under Lyme, and she was a midwife, like the ladies that you see on Call a Midwife, on a bicycle. And my brother went to sea, and he preferred tankers to go on. And he, one time he was away for 18 months from home, and the ship never even touched the shore, because they can fish the pipelines either to fill your tanker up or empty your tanker up out at sea. So they never even got ashore.
Now I know there's a really strong passion here with yourself and your family, especially like your father and your brother Peter, and you yourself with shipbuilding, with the sea. Like, luckily, you never actually went to sea, which I'm glad. But there's obviously your dad, Peter. Like, he had that unfortunate accident, like in the River Weir. But there was another member of family who, well, there's been a few, hasn't there, that have disappeared in the sea.
Yeah, well, it was me. It was my grandfather. I'll start from the youngest.
If you can't remember the names, it doesn't
matter.
No,
I can. There was Thomas Costello, right? He was like the same, a couple of years older than my father, right? There was Thomas. He got drowned. He hit a mine in the mouth, Grangemouth, at the mouth of the Thames. They hit a mine.
Yeah.
And they all were hard grafters. They didn't have cushy jobs on the ship. They were like firemen, stoking the boilers and things like that. And they were always down the engine room. So when the mine hit, he was in the engine room, and he was drowned. He was drowned a year after my father. And then my great-grandfather, he was going to sea, and I had ages to find out what happened to him, because the only one I could talk to when she was alive was my sister. And she said that he'd gone to sea and he never came back. Now, look, you know what sailors are. They might have went to a foreign country and decided, oh,
Got a
I
new
don't
life.
like it at home.
Yeah.
But
new
anyway,
life.
what had happened was he committed suicide at sea. So I don't know what he did, whether he jumped overboard or shot himself, or I don't know. But there was 3.
And who was the one? Who was the one who left the shores and went over to America and didn't come back?
Nobody. My dad was the one that was going to America, and his brother. They were the ones that was going to America. And recently, I found he even went to He went to Africa as well.
Who was the one who was pursuing the acting career?
The what?
Acting career. Who was that?
In my family.
Oh, must have been dreaming. Maybe it was me.
I'm going to say you.
All right. Well, that's not going very well, is it? Blimey.
No, I had nobody acting. No.
All right. Right. So there's a big, strong connection with the shipbuilding, and obviously my uncle Peter Costello, your brother, he worked for he was at the Merchant Navy, wasn't he? That's where he was, Merchant Navy.
Yeah, on the oil tankers.
Yeah.
And then he came ashore because he got married. He married a lovely lady from Northampton, and he moved down to Northampton, and he got a job in Carlsberg Brewery, which apparently they took engineers, seagoing engineers, because the workings in there, in there to make the beer and all that, the boilers and stuff like that, was something like an engine room, on the ship. But unfortunately, he died of cancer because of the asbestos in the engine rooms.
And obviously leaving behind, like my cousins, Simon and Adam, like because they had two boys who still live down in Northampton.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like I want to just rewind a little bit.
Right.
Like obviously you had your sister Sheila and Peter. Did you used to like play with? Have you got any like memories like growing up like with Sheila or Peter?
Yeah. Well, Sheila was the oldest, and I'm sure she was far more the cleverest than everybody. She did very well in all our exams and everything like that. But yeah, I always remember there was just after the war, there was an exchange, from a boy from Holland came to Sunderland, and my sister went to his house, and he was called Jean de Gast.
Wow.
And he was a nice lad. And anyway, and when Sheila, when she went to his house, they could see all the bullet holes, from the war of the Germans.
Yeah.
Bullet holes all over the buildings, a bit like the Ukraine at the moment, or whatever it is. So I can remember that. And she looked after me as well. She used to get us in the pram and take us out, and we went to the park. And Peter, he did his own thing. He had his own friends.
Yeah.
We were just round the doors, but I had my own friends, more my age, and he had his friends his age. But he was very clever with his hands. He used to do a lot of fretwork.
Yeah.
The little saw and things like that, and make things for my mum. And he used to have a Meccano set, and building things. He was like an engineer, really, when he was young. He was clever. He went to technical college as well.
Did he tell you many stories about his life when he was at sea? Keep it clean.
Well, it was one little story where they went to Japan, and him and the captain went to a bar, and the girls came over, and they went, no, we don't, no, because they got paid more on the drinks, you see, if you had a girl sitting at the table.
Yeah.
It's like in the 30s and that in England. And anyway, oh, no, girls, no. And anyway, when they got the bill, it was still high. And they said, well, what's it for? He says, well, we'll put some peanuts on your table to eat, you know. Oh, God.
Yeah.
So there was a fracas there, and they ended up, they got arrested. But they got let out, obviously, because the captain and the chief engineer, the boat couldn't go. So they got let off. So that was one little story there.
Well, thanks for keeping it clean. I'm sure there was a
Oh,
hundred
no, he
more
wouldn't.
stories you could
He's
have told,
like
but
me. He's
we'll stick
pure.
with the peanut. We'll stick with the peanuts one.
But,
Right. So just hang fire. We're just going to break and go into the third and final part. So we'll just have a little breather just for the time being. So everybody stay with us, and then we'll go through a few more of the lives and loves of my dad, Joe Costello, just in part 3. Well, welcome back to Not Just Crew and this special edition where I am interviewing my father, Joseph William Costello, where we're discussing a little bit about his experiences growing up in the good old city of Sunderland and his life and his career, many careers, and we'll touch a little bit on them as we do progress. So welcome back to the studio, Dad.
yes, I'm here.
There he is. Do you enjoy your cup of tea?
Yep.
Brilliant. So, welcome back, as I said. This is my father, Joe Costello, who is 82 years young. He's doing all right. He's not looking too shabby for an old fart. I'm only joking, you know that. So, we've kind of discussed about family and stuff like that, but let's touch a little bit upon where you met my mum. Let's go down that storyline now. Where did you meet? How old were you? How did you meet? What did you look like? Where, give us that kind of story.
Well, I don't know how old I was. About 25, I think.
Right.
And your mum's 6 years younger than I am.
Outrageous.
So she would have been about 21.
What?
21, wasn't it?
Well, if you were 25, she wouldn't have been 21. If she's 6 years younger, try 19.
I told you I was thick.
You were 28.
Oh, I was 28, sorry.
So my mum was 22.
Aye.
Right.
I was nearly right, 21, 22.
Well done, Mum.
Aye. Well
Right.
done, Mum. He's saying.
And I was 22.
Aye,
Well,
she
we
was
know that.
22.
Right. Where were you?
Anyway, it was in the jolly old Wetherells nightclub.
Of course.
Now, I always used to go out early on a Friday night, and I used to go to the Waverden, that's side Grindon, and have a couple of beers first. And then I used to go down to the Rosedale, see if I could see anybody, and there was nobody there. So I went to Wetherells, and it was too early, really. There was hardly anybody in.
All on your own, this is.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
And I thought, I'll play the roulette wheel a bit.
Is that the same as roulette?
Huh?
Is that the same as roulette?
What did I say?
Roulette.
Roulette. Tourette's. Anyway. And, well, obviously I lost not a lot. I didn't have a lot of money to lose, but I lost me few pennies, we'll say. And then your mother came in, hove in sight. Margaret. She says, are you going to buy us a drink? Right pushy girl. So
Right.
I said, well, I can't. I haven't got any money. Well, I didn't.
God.
So I says, next time I see you, thinking I wasn't going to see her. And anyway, I went home. And then I think the next week she was in. And she says, where's that drink you were going to buy us? So that was it. I've been buying her drinks ever since.
She wasn't going to give up on that free drink, was she?
No. And a lift home.
Blimey. Well, what was your overall impression when you first met me mum? What were you looking at?
Well, I figure, obviously.
What, not a face?
Well, I'd seen her face, but she had a gorgeous figure as well. She was light as a feather. I used to do weight training in them days as well. And I always remember she couldn't see the act. So I picked her up. With like me up one arm, I picked her up and held her up while she watched the act. So that's what I'm trying to say. Not me being so strong, but her being so light.
When you met me mum, when she came and asked you for that drink initially, who was she with?
Oh, another girl.
Ah.
So that would have made 2 drinks, didn't it?
Yeah, you kind of get one without the other. Can you remember what that drink was that you bought her?
What did you want to drink?
I can't remember.
She can't remember.
Anything with alcohol in it, that's what my mum would have had.
Yeah. Can I have a baby sham, please?
Baby sham.
Yeah, whatever.
I'd love a baby sham.
So, that's you. You're starting to see each other. You're starting to go out and court and, be boyfriend and girlfriend. Where did you used to go together?
Well, we got married first.
You didn't hang about. I'm talking about when you first started going.
3 months.
It's about boyfriend and girlfriend. Where did you used to take me mum?
Oh, well, just the same old thing. We used to go to the Waverton or the Rose.
Just got married.
The Rose Dane.
Order a drink, got married, stuff it.
Things like that. Yeah. Rose and Dane, wherever a crowd was, they're her friends, my friends.
Did you pay away or did you buy your drinks all the time?
No, she never paid, no. Well, she didn't have as much money as I had.
What was my mum doing for work back then?
She worked in a catalogue company as a clerk.
What was that, Brian Mills?
No, Janet Fraser's. There was
Fraser.
There was 2. There was Brian Mills and Janet Fraser's taking orders.
And another little story, it's for a short period of time when I started work, I worked in Janet Fraser's as well for the Royal Mail. It had its own little section there.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, small kind of world. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, my mum's working in Janet Fraser, the catalogue company. You're still working down the shipyards. And was it really 3 months after you first met that you got married?
6.
6 months. That's not a long time, is it?
No.
Why the rush?
Well, our friends used to thought she was pregnant because she'd only known her 6 months.
Well, yeah.
Oh, you must be pregnant. She said, I'm not, And then we got married in 1968. Is that right?
Did it take a lot for you to propose to my mum? Or did you just get it out there and...
she was a pushy one. Pushy.
What, pushed you into proposing?
Well, no, I didn't propose. She just says that we're going to get married.
God.
Didn't you?
When you going to buy us a drink?
I was going to go to Greece.
Oh, she give us an ultimatum. I'm going to go to Greece.
And you were going to buy
but if you marry us, I'll stop here. That's nice, isn't it?
It's like a business deal.
With a car.
Huh?
So it's like a business deal, isn't it? It's like a business arrangement. This is what's happening. Like it or not. Take it or leave it. Here I am. Otherwise, I'm off to Greece. Wow. Can you imagine? This is how crazy life is. Just that you went, well, we go off to Greece then. What life would have led to if that had happened. Strange, isn't it? Funny, just clearly meant to be. So after that ultimatum was given to you, how long was it after that year that actually got married, and where did you get married?
Well, it was I was 28. That was 1968. It was 6 months after. It was only another 6 months, and then we got married.
Where did you get married? Was it a church?
No. We couldn't have.
3 months.
Our families.
3 months.
3 months, she says.
Right.
3 months.
Right, what's a few months?
So our families didn't have any money, for churchy weddings and buying wedding dresses and all the rest of it. And at the time, there was no registry. There was no registry office in Sunderland. We didn't have a registry office, and it was an empty school. West Park College for Girls. Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
aye, and West Park College for Girls, and it had closed down. And it, obviously, empty building, and we got married in one of the classrooms there, a civil ceremony. And if you love somebody, that's all you need. You don't push them for fancy dresses and diamond rings. And she didn't even have an engagement ring. Couldn't afford one.
Who was there at the wedding?
Well,
The ceremony?
Margaret's family.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
my
God.
my bits of family.
Not the Dawsons.
He's laughing.
They weren't asking you for a drink as well, were they?
We just had the reception in Margaret's house, the cake and all that, which you've got the photograph there. And then we went down round to Pennywell Club to have a few beers, and that was it.
How
Simple
did
as.
both sets of parents, well, obviously, just your mum, me nana, how did they get on with each other, and what did they think of my mum?
Oh, my mum loved Margaret. She thought she was great. But as I say,
I've no words. I've nothing to add there.
Robin Hood's beer. Our honeymoon.
What? No, hang on.
Oh.
Let's rewind. What did Nana Dawson think of you?
I've no idea. What did Nana Dawson think of me?
It was Dad. Dad wasn't keen on you.
Our dad didn't like us.
Oh God! Right,
Mum.
okay then. You cannot please everyone.
All right with you.
Well, you can't. I mean, we're
You
all
can.
different. I mean, he's losing his daughter, isn't he?
Aye, fair enough. That's exactly. Look,
Aye.
I've got 2 girls myself. I can kind of relate to that.
Aye.
But anyway, that's a different discussion. So you're both married. You've had your special day. You're off to your honeymoon, which was to where?
Robin Hood's beer.
Correct. Well done.
Because that's all. And because it was in the shipyard fortnight, July, was in the shipyard fortnight, and we had a holiday anywhere. So we went down to Robin Hood's beer.
Perfect.
And
how
on the
did
way down, the car broke down just outside of Peterlee.
Mm-hmm.
But that was an omen.
And what year was this? Remind the viewers.
1968.
So you're not hanging about here because
Dad got that flat for us.
I know I was going to say that. Well, I was just going to say, when you said the honeymoon, we had a flat. Margaret's dad was a Freemason, and obviously he knew people because he had his own business, a butcher, pork butcher, and as I say, he was a Freemason, and he knew an old man called Mr. Porritt, which had a shop in the town at one time, and he had a room. It was just 2 rooms, wasn't it? It was like a front room and a bedroom, and we rented that out at £2.50 a week.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived there for 14 months, I think. We lived there 14 months, and I started to save up because we used to get, we worked for we were building ships, for a Greek millionaire magnate fellow, and we used to get bonuses, if we got the ship off on time or sooner, we got bonuses, and I saved £500 up. And then I couldn't afford a house in Sunderland because they were too dear. They wouldn't give me a mortgage because Margaret's wage didn't count. It's only if she was a civil servant, like a school teacher or a nurse or a civil servant, they would have took her wages into consideration. And I originally wanted to buy a £4,500 house at Harrington. A lovely brand new Leach's house that had everything, central heating, double glazing, garage on, but they wouldn't give me the mortgage. So I had to look outside of Sunderland, and we went to Hortley Spring.
Yep.
and they were building houses there, and there were only 3,500, and I put the 500 down, and we've got a brand new wimpy house, and it was £24.50 a month at that time, and I was only getting about £12 or £14 a week. But Margaret was always been a grafter, and she was working, and sometimes when I was out of work through ill health or strikes, which there was a lot of in the shipyard, Margaret would go out and manage to get a job and supplement the wage. Always a good worker.
Right. I'll be doing an interview on me mum at another date. She'll get her moment in the limelight when I interview my mum. But at the moment, this is all about you. You can't get enough of me mum, can you? Right. So we've established that obviously first house that you bought kind of was the one in Hortley Spring, and then you moved to because you always lived in Sunderland or in and around the Sunderland area. So then you moved to Roker, then you were Fulwell just off Newcastle Road, then you went to Seaburn, and then from Seaburn you kind of moved over to Thornham Road, and then it was just around the corner to Hurstwood Road. Yep. Did a few, not really that many houses when you think about it, is there?
I lived in about 11 different places from leaving home.
Yeah, a lot of people. I know a lot of people stay in like the same home for a long period of time. But like, I think us, like as kind of like a family, we always seem to like move around and get a bit restless and like, right, I'm kind of done here, then start looking. I mean, I always like look at other properties even now, even though we're settled here. I can't like stop looking at like seeing what's in and around the area or further afield just to see what the market's like. And just curiosity, isn't it? So out of all of those houses and areas, where would you say that you had your happiest like kind of spell? Which area in Sunderland was it your favourite?
Well, I've got to say this. It didn't matter where I was always happy with Margaret. Didn't matter where I lived or what house I had. That was happiness with Margaret.
Love it. Right. Other than the happiness that my mother clearly provided you, which we'll not go into all of those details as well, which house area that you enjoyed the most with like the surroundings, like the things that were on your doorstep, your views, whatever, or even the property itself? Which one was it that gave you the most satisfaction?
Well, I think the best house I had, a grand house, was Thornham Road.
Yeah.
On Durham Road itself.
Number 10, wasn't it?
It was a lovely house. It was about 4 or 5 bedroomed house. And obviously when my daughter moved out, Karen, and then you moved out, that was too big for us, and that was the only reason we moved on. In fact, there was once I was working in the garden, and I worked at the leisure centre, Sunderland Leisure Centre at the time, and somebody had said, "Oh, were you doing gardening for that big house, people that lived in there?" I said, "No, it's mine."
Yeah.
And because I always made every house I had, I made money on when I sold it. And I started at 3,000, then it went to like 11,000, then it went to 19,000, then it went after that I paid cash for my houses. I didn't have a mortgage. Seaburn was cash, Thornham Road was cash, Hurstwood Road was cash.
All right,
and I made money on all the houses.
All right.
I was quite lucky. I'm thick. I keep saying I'm thick, but I was clever in that respect.
No,
I never lost out.
You always seem to buy a house that needed like a lot of work doing to it, and you were more than happy to put that graft in.
Yeah.
And I mean, you were in a good position as well, because you could get a lot of like materials. You could source them like, cheaply. Or even free sometimes, and then you could do all of these like new renovations with the properties that you did buy, which obviously added value to them. And with the market going up and up and up, then you were onto a winner. So I've just got to say, obviously, myself and my sister were born in the house, not in the house, but like we did our like grown up at the very early age at the house in Hortney Spring. That's
Yeah.
correct, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And then the majority of the grown up and like going to school was at St Andrew's Terrace in Roker, then Newcastle Road, 181 Newcastle Road, if I do remember rightly. And then we moved to 67 Deepdene Road in Seaburn, Sunderland, which coincidentally will always be my favourite house living in, because obviously you had the sea front on your doorstep. You had all the football pitches just behind near the cemetery. That was there. It was a really good area to like grow up and live and like play with like all your friends. There was a lot of kids in and around that area, and it was just such a cool place to actually grow up. So that's my standout property, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. So let's so we've touched on your property kind of thing. So let's go back to your working career. So you've left the shipyards. I think you were you took your redundancy. I'm going to hazard a guess. Was it 1985 or 84?
85.
Yep. So you've left Austin and Pickersgills after, how many years was that? That was nearly 30 years working down Austin and Pickersgills?
Yeah, 30 years.
Yeah. So big change. Massive change. I mean, obviously, it's a massive part of your life. And so what was that like to leave Pickies?
Well, obviously, I wasn't one for sitting around, and I would take any kind of job. And this is before I left Pickersgills mine. I was always getting paid off. After the lunch, I got paid off. And I wouldn't lie around just on the dole. And I used to look for jobs. And I did many jobs, like even cleaning toilets in a factory in Commercial Road, Spelterworks Road. And I worked on the Sunderland abattoir as a labourer. And when it was built,
Road in Seaburn.
Yeah. And when it was built, I actually got a job for a wholesale butcher to go there and pick the meat up, which was, some of them weighed as much as 250 pounds in weight. You had to carry them and put them in the van, the wagon, and then drop them off at various butchers where you were told to and hang them up in their fridges, which was hard graft. But the labouring work was terrible as well, because again, no safety. When bricks came in onto the site, they were still warm from the factory, the kilns and things. No gloves, and big bags of cement. And there was a big Paddy, used to be the foreman. That's an Irishman, big Paddy. And we were carrying them on our shoulders and throwing them down. And we got wrong for that, because when you throw them down, the bag splits open. Lay them down gently, It was terrible.
So you clearly enjoyed that. So that was your abattoir experience.
Money.
I know. Got to pay those bills. You've got 2 hungry kids at home that need feeding. Not so much me, by the way. That's never it. And then, so that was the abattoir. And then you had a bit of a career working for, which was a big place in Sunderland growing up, the Crotery Leisure Centre.
But I used to work with your mum as well on the vans, because she was a vending machine operator.
Yeah.
And I used to go out and help your mum carry the heavy gas bottles and things into the machines. And later on, I got a little job with them. It was only £100 a week, but a little job for them. And then I went to the leisure centre. And again, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And with Margaret already working in the leisure centre, she was very popular. And I got a job sweeping up outside first. Then I was promoted to the car park, looking after the car park.
Woo. Big promotion.
Yeah. All the dignitaries coming in and that, touching your forelock.
Yeah.
Irene Lucas, lovely lady who owns His Travel now.
Correct.
She was a real lady.
Dame
treat everybody
Irene
equally
Lucas.
and nicely.
Dame. Mhm.
And anyway, I've got a job with 2 other chaps, and we were called Nightmen, and we were locked in the leisure centre at night,
Yeah.
and till the next day for safety and fire. The fire alarm was always going off.
Mhm.
But
And the soft play
that sort of
area
thing.
proved a very resourceful kind of environment to get your head down, I do believe. The
Yes,
soft
it
play
was.
area.
But
Yeah.
be careful who you're showing this to.
Yeah. I think you're safe now, Dad. The leisure centre's long gone.
I know, but I worked for the council, didn't I?
Yeah, I know, but
Council.
again,
Oh, and I was a caretaker.
correct. In
I
Cork
was a
Street.
caretaker of 3 schools, Cork Street Nursery for little
Yeah.
babies and about 2 or 3-year-olds. Worked there, and then I was part-time at Richard Avenue School, which is inside the Barnes Hotel, and also the Barnes School itself. Did a little bit of caretaking there when the caretaker wasn't feeling well or holidays and things like that.
So
And I enjoyed that. I really loved the children running around the schoolyard. This might sound funny on air, but the laughter and the happiness that was coming from them made me feel tip-top.
Good. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. When was it that you officially stopped working then? How old were you? What year was that?
2005. That was at Cork Street
2005.
Nursery. I retired at New Year's Eve 2005. I was 65 then, so I could
65.
retire.
Yeah. Well,
And they closed the Cork Street Nursery. They closed it.
And then from that point, did you think, right, that's me done work, and I'm not going to look for any other jobs, or did you like think, oh, well, I might have a little look somewhere else, see what's around?
I don't think I did work anymore after that.
Did you look though? Did you think that you would like do anything else, or did you make that decision? That's enough. I'm done.
I'm not quite sure.
No,
Mhm.
I packed in when I was 60, and you were 65, well, 66 actually. You'd already thingied, so I retired.
But no, I didn't do it. I just did like jobs in the house, things like that.
And where are you living now? Because obviously, after Hurstwood Road, you were kind of looking to like downside.
In the Stadium of Light.
Oh, I was working in the Stadium of Light. The boss told me we both worked together, but I was a washer-upper, and Margaret was a silver service waitress in the posh end,
Yeah.
in the boxes upstairs.
So now you're both living. Now you're both living in the town centre, which,
No,
like, obviously
you missed one place. Sorry, I lived right. Orchard House. Remember?
Oh yes. Yeah.
I had a flat at Orchard House, and I rented it out. After a while, I was in about 3 years. I rented it out, and then I moved into the flats in the town.
Yeah, that's right.
Gen 2.
Forget about Orchard House. It's weird that, isn't it? Because clearly you have as well.
2008, when the stock market went down, I lost a lot of money. I paid 167,500 for that flat. And when the market crashed and people weren't paying the rent, they wouldn't pay the rent. I was losing money left, right, centre. I sold it, and I only got £90 for it. 90,000 for it.
£90, bloody
90,000.
Yeah, you're a good man to do business with.
I know.
Clearly, I sold it for £90.
I told you, man, I haven't got it up here.
No, well, it was that kind of period of time coincides with when we sold our house in Hortley Spring, because if we'd have literally sold it a year before we did sell it, we would have made a lot of money on it. But when it didn't sell, and when the market crashed, we ended up losing money on it. And that's the gamble with the property market, isn't it? It's about selling at the right time. So you're both retired now. So what do kind of you and me mum do, or what have you been doing for the last 17 years since retirement? What has been
17.
Like? How do you fill your time in? Did you find it hard to fill your time in?
Well, we do. we don't stop in this flat, or we wouldn't stop in the other flat either. We'd either go out for a walk, which we still do today. We'll have various walks around the town, Seaburn, Roker.
Durham.
I would get on buses at Backhouse Park, Mowbray Park, or we'll jump on a bus and we'll go, like the other day, we went to Durham to see what the river was like, and it was absolutely flooded. It was gushing and roaring over that little weir. You know, and have a coffee and in Witherspoons at Clearpath, and then down by the river and walking along and get the bus back and talking to people. It's surprising how many people you get talking to when you're wandering around, walking
people.
and that, and little holidays.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, you've got obviously myself and my sister Karen, and you have how many grandkids?
5.
You're on the spot, correct. 5 grandkids, which, I mean, they're nearly all grown up now as well.
They are.
You know, I think like Cece's obviously the youngest one of 14.
I was just going to say Cece, and then Isabel, and then Holly.
They grow up so fast. They just do. But like, if I could ask you, like, one thing that has given you the most joy in your life, then what would it be?
Well, giving birth. Not me personally.
You give birth, bloody hell!
Margaret giving birth to you and Karen.
Yeah. Family is what you're looking for, then, yeah? The family.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I don't think there's anything more important.
Yeah. My family's always there when they want somebody. They're good people. That was just a joke, folks.
Don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
I've got to say, it's the most important thing that I think that you and my mum have passed down to myself is that family is the most important thing, and obviously if you're lucky enough to find the right person in your life, then that gives you a bloody good chance.
Monumentous.
Absolutely, you've got to be lucky, and you've got to find that right person, which we clearly have, then that's the building blocks for like creating and developing your children and bringing out all the things that you've kind of like installed into me. I'm doing exactly the same with my girls, because I think you've done an incredible job, you and me mum, of bringing us up to be like, because I've admitted this to you myself, like, in my younger years, not exactly the best like kind of role model, let's say. But as you get older, you realise the amazing job that you and my mum did as parents, like just supporting and like encouraging and just showing what you need to do as a parent and an adult to kind of like to set the standards for your children. Well, and that's what we obviously try to do.
Well, I was proud of you and Karen, because you've both done very well in your lives, starting from scratch. You've made your own life and your own money. You've done very well. And I'm super specially happy with the grandchildren.
Yeah.
I've never seen how clever children they are when they're not children anymore.
Yeah.
But, going to universities and that, and speaking languages,
and enjoying it as well, aren't they?
They
are
like
enjoying it as well.
Everybody.
It's not like an effort, because that's how I remember it for me to be. It was difficult and challenging and boring, and I just didn't, But these guys, they go to all this further education place, and they're like,
Absolutely,
I'm loving doing this. I'm loving doing triple science. I'm loving this. I'm loving that, and I'm thinking, wow, incredible. So right. Almost done. I'm going to touch on one last subject, and it's basically because we've not mentioned one of your brothers. We've mentioned Peter, we've mentioned Sheila. We need to talk about George as well. Growing up with George Morgan.
Yes.
And obviously my nana's like husband and how George came into the fold and all that. So it would be wrong if obviously we didn't
No.
cover this. And I obviously want to touch about like people that we've lost in our lives and like what that was like kind of thing. So tell us a little bit about your brother George.
Well, I was going to mention George a while back when you said about cars. You know, no. George, he was a mechanic. He started like with 15. He started life to be a mechanic. And it was in Nixon's in Newcastle Road. He served his time. And then he became the service manager at Nixon's. So that was a boost up for him, service manager. And then he went to Mill Garages. And he was service manager there as well. So he's done very well for himself. And he's doing quite well. He's got a lovely bungalow and he's got a really nice car. And he's really happy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a family as well, 2 boys.
Yeah.
And they've done well for themselves, both workers.
But like he's your half brother, isn't he, George?
Oh,
like,
yes. Well, my mum got married again to a chap called George Morgan. He went to sea as well. All these sailors. My mum liked the sailors. And anyway, as I say, George was born in, as I said, we moved from this horrible house in the town centre up to a brand new house at Pennywell. Because my mum had like bad health. And George was born there in 1953. So that's it. So really.
Right. Now let's touch a little on like obviously you told us how you were a bit of a mammy's boy, and that's what you're really very close. And so what was it like being you when kind of like obviously my nana, your mum was getting older, and obviously she moved out of her own accommodation in Durham. Framwellgate, wasn't it? When she lived that way, was Framwellgate, or was it Pity Me?
I'm getting an echo on the line. You're like croaky and an echo. I can't quite hear your last questions.
Can you hear me now clearly?
It's still squeaky and that.
Squeaky?
Well, you know, it's
right.
Incoherent.
Right. So we'll try and work with it because it sounds all right this end. So what was it like when my nana, your mum, was like obviously getting older, and then she went into the care home. Yeah, she went into the care home, and then she started becoming poorly. How did that make you feel? What was your emotions like then?
Well, I don't know how to say it. I mean, it's hard to see. I mean, she struggled through most of her life, in any case, and then seeing her there and wasting away basically, and frail and going from one.
Are you there? Right. 2 seconds, guys. Just obviously, I'll try and get my dad back there and get the volume back on track, though. So, and we'll just 5 more minutes to go, and then we'll get all this tied up. Well, welcome back. Small little technical hitch there. My dad actually kicked the power lead with his foot out of the laptop, and it's the battery never kicked in. So anyway, never mind. Let's bring him back in the studio, and then we'll wrap this up very shortly. Here he comes. Hello again, Dad.
Hello.
Right. So, yeah, let's just touch on, obviously, you were talking about me mum and said she was like me nana, that she was like struggling kind of thing, and obviously getting old, and yeah, so I'm guessing you were kind of feeling like sorry, and you didn't want it to kind of like suffer and go through that process, so mixed feelings, mixed feelings, where
Of
like
course,
you don't want to let somebody go,
no,
because that's you love them so much, but
that's
then you're
right.
thinking, oh, they've had enough, look, they're knackered.
Well, it's a blessing when they do go. You say when they go to sleep, it got no pain, no worries, all gone.
Yeah. But then what we have got is our memories, and so that like whoever we lose, so that will always be with us, because we'll always have those treasured
That's
memories of when you'd spent all that time together. So like, I guess that must give you a lot of comfort. Yeah.
I always say that if you can spare just a couple of minutes once a week and think about somebody,
Yeah.
they haven't, they're in their memory.
Well, that's it. Nobody ever really truly dies. I mean, like, yeah, you might do in body and all that, but like that person stays with you.
That's right.
Always will
It
be.
is.
Always will be. You'll never be without them.
I often say, I've seen my mum today. It's a little old lady with white hair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You say, whoop, there's me mum.
Absolutely.
But,
well, might be. You should tap her on the shoulder and go, oi.
And not get arrested.
You faked your own funeral, Nana, Mum. So, listen, we'll wrap this up there. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your memories of you growing up, your work, and just like what you used to do when you were a young man. And just obviously, thank you so much for sharing your story with me and our viewers. And it's a little brief insight as well to the history of Sunderland and what somebody of your age used to get up to back in the day, and what the working like environment and conditions were. Because obviously you did grow up and you were born in the midst of the First World War, and to be honest, lucky to be alive with all these buildings getting blown up either side of you. And if you hadn't survived, then I wouldn't be here. And life is incredibly different. So, like you say, you've got to be forever grateful for the opportunity that you get in life, and just count it as a blessing, and just do the best.
I must say to anyone out there, if they do the family history, it's not hard. You can get census, and the general census every 10 years, and you'll see things. You'll see the names and people that's in that house at that particular time when the census is taken. And at one time, my dad was in a house and there was 32 people in it.
Wow.
It's South Shields.
Yeah.
There were dock labourers and all sorts. There weren't family. There was only about 4 family, and all the rest were dock labourers. It's surprising what you can find out.
Well,
go to the history library.
That's still the case in South Shields on Ocean Road. But no, listen, I mean, I can testify to that. I mean, our very own Trevor Jenkins, he's been retracing his family tree, and he's uncovered some hidden gems as well. And they'll be putting some podcasts out there about his revelations and discoveries regarding his family tree and ancestry trail. So yeah, we fully embrace and love anything to do with all of that kind of thing. So listen, thank you so much, Dad. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate your time. I know you're ready for a bit of a nap now.
No, yeah. Now, if there's anybody out there, Costello's, right, get in touch with Simon. Let me know.
Don't bother.
Please.
I don't want any skeletons coming out and biting me in the closet, biting me in the bum.
They might want money.
Yeah. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Nothing's ever presented itself up until now. So, right, listen. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, Dad, and thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you for bearing with me.
No, not a problem. I've had 51 years. I'm doing all right. No, but thank you so much from the bottom of your heart. Thank you so much for all that you've given me and my family. Personally, you've been absolutely a rock and a joy to just to be just for me dad, isn't it? No, I'll talk about me watch later. Right. So listen.
She can hear you, man.
Yeah, right. So say bye-bye, Dad.
Bye.
So anyway, thank you so much. That was my dad. I hope you enjoyed a brief little insight at Not Just Crew. And yeah, it's just incredible to chat to your parents, to your loved ones, and get a bit of a history of what they used to get up to when they were your age and how they dealt with things. And yeah, if you haven't done it already, then have that chat, do this video, have a little video, do an interview with them, and then you'll have these memories just like what I'm going to have, treasured forever, just so you can look back on. So take care, guys. All the best.